I had done a little work and like, I know we're trying to keep this fairly loosey goose, but also like kind of short-ish or shorter. And I know like it's really easy to just like blow up and it's like, all right, we're at 55 minutes. Like, so I don't know. I sat down and just did a little like rough outline, and you can, I mean, just in a like that, like, more formatting, I should say. So
Yeah.
just like, obviously we have an intro and an outro sandwiching everything, and just the, starting off with like the brewery, the beer, like history itself, just a like, hey, like we're talking Live Oak Hefeweizen, like who the fuck are these guys? How long have they been around? Like what, blah, 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 like setting the stage. Then getting into the actual like beer evaluation of everything, starting like segues into our own personal experiences, personal histories with that beer, and then kind of wrapping it up with a like, okay, so why are we talking about Live Oak Hefeweizen? Like, let's get to the nitty gritty of like, why is this required drinking? And then that sort of segues to an outro. So I don't know. I figured I'd just throw that at you to see like if that's a like decent framework to start, or if you've got an idea for.
That sounds about where I'm at. So that sounds perfect. Okay. All right. So here's what we're going to do. Do you want to be the first one to talk? I do it all the time. It's really easy for me, but if you want to give it a whirl.
Yeah. You know what? Why don't you give it a whirl this time, and I'll try it up next time.
All right. So what I'm going to do is, yeah, I love that sound. I am going to, for the video, I'm going to say, I'm going to hit record here on the audio, rolling on the audio. My dog is probably going to start barking like a madman here in just a second. But here we go. Required drinking, episode 2, Live Oak Hefeweizen. Ready, action, here we go. Here we go. And now.
The following is a presentation of Stewed Productions. It's time for a deep dive with the craft beer classics that made you fall in love back in the day. It's a refresher course on the best beers of all time. This is InterBrews, Required Drinking. Now here are your hosts, Keenan Zarling and Josh Stewart.
That's an intro.
Yeah,
We're official. We're official. That's just it. Welcome, everybody, to InterBrews Required Drinking. We are back for episode 2. You thought it wouldn't last, or maybe you did. We're just that stubborn, Keenan.
Yeah, you know it. Nope, just no giving up.
No
brakes on the train.
No, there's not. Just keep it, because, yeah, it would be worse if we stopped. Anyway, I'm Josh Stewart. He's Keenan.
I am Keenan Zarling. I am a professional evening drinker.
You are one of the best.
Yeah, so I am absolutely pumped to be talking about this beer tonight, because this is one of my like, I don't know, I was about to say top 5 beers, but I might go off on an ledge and just say, you know what, top 5 beers, because this is definitely one of the beers that got me into craft beer, and it holds a really holds a spot in my heart, and it's earned it. It deserves it, certainly. And so what we're talking about today is Live Oak Brewing Company's Hefeweizen, the OG Hefeweizen of Central Texas.
Yeah, it's old Mount Rushmore has been in the news lately for obvious for other reasons. It's obvious if you've been paying attention, but it's because it's 2020, and but Mount Rushmore has always been one of those things. Like, what are your Mount Rushmore beers? So your top 4, like, the classics, the things that really have, like, you want to build them. Like, if you had to carve a mountain in the middle of a state you'll probably never visit because it's way up there and way up. If you were gonna take a mountain and carve beers into the side of it, what would they be? And I'm with you. For me, Live Oak Hefeweizen for me it's one of those beers.
Yeah, and so what I mean, there's a lot to love about this beer, and so I'm sure. Remind me, where did you go to college?
Well, I was enrolled at. I was enrolled at Arkansas State.
Oh, there you go.
Jonesboro, Arkansas. Attendance, it's a little fuzzy.
Well, I'm sure the memories that you have are so good.
Uh-huh.
But so I went to college in Austin and came of age and started really exploring the craft beer world in Austin. And this was late aughts. Going to date myself there a little bit. Live Oak Hefeweizen was one of those beers that it was draft only for like the first 15 years, 17 years of its existence or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was a beer that you only got to experience, you only got to get into if you were physically in a bar. So as an underage drinker, somebody that was getting into craft beer, because that's right, I was a criminal at a time. But getting into craft beer and exploring the beer world, it was something that was totally not even on your radar until you physically were stepping into a bar. And so, yeah, I mean, Live Oak Brewing Company was something that it was just always there. Like their beers were always on tap in Austin. And it wasn't until later when I was professionally brewing that I realized, like, holy cow, these guys have been around since 97.
Mm-hmm.
Like they are granddaddies in the Texas brewing scene.
I don't know what when I'm thinking Texas, obviously St. Arnold, is the oldest of the still around craft brewers, right? They were brewers way back in the day, but and then I think Real Ale maybe right after that, but then Live Oak,
Yeah, there's a handful that have been around that were opened before 2000. I believe, I think Independence is 99. Mm-hmm. And now I'm sure we're going to get a bunch of nerds writing in. It's like, you said this brewery opened up, but this I don't know, but they're few and far between. Very few breweries in Texas that can stand up proudly and say, "Oh yeah, I've been around for 20 years."
Yeah,
like that's a huge milestone. And Live Oak Brewing Company, so they're a conundrum in my mind in the professional scene, because they do their wheelhouse and they just do it well, and it's kind of unapologetic. Mm-hmm. So I mean, they do pilsners, they do continental style, ales and lagers, and they got an IPA because they have to, and
that is one of those ones where it's like IPA. I mean, I'm sure it's good because I know Chip, and I know the approach that Live Oak takes to their beers. So I'm like, oh, that's probably a good beer, but I don't know.
Yeah, and so to a certain degree, that's one of the reasons why I find myself gravitating back to this beer and to because this is what I think one of the beers they opened with. Getting back to, I come back to Live Oak Brewing Company, and whenever I'm in Austin, I'll kind of gravitate towards them, is because they've sort of stuck to those roots of, and they still find ways to innovate. They do some collaborations with Jester King and with other breweries in Central Texas, but sorry, my cat is he's just like, you're sitting down, it's time to love me.
Well, he reached up and opened the door. You didn't see right as you were started. He reached up. He had the handle. He kind of tap danced into the room there with you.
Yeah. To be fair, this is his room. So, but all right, I got to pick the cat up because otherwise he's going to just bother us the whole time. But anyway, so the damn cat. But they've kind of just been they've stuck in their wheelhouse for better or for worse. And they were draft only again for like 15, 17 years, until they finally moved into their new facility and just dropped a ton of cash and got a packaging line. But even to that point, their packaging in my mind is one of the sharpest. It's just good, sharp packaging on the shelf.
Yeah. It's clean. It's them with that. It's something about that yellow band at the top there.
Yeah.
On all their beers. And it's like, yep, that's going to be good.
Yeah. And even like, again, on a professional level, like the 6-packs they're 6-pack cartons as opposed to the rings. There's like a whole bunch of stuff that they're just doing right.
Yeah.
And in an industry that's a whole lot of like, man, we got to push out something new and exciting. Like, what's the sexiest thing? We got to find a way to sell a 4-pack for $20 or whatever. They're still rolling in it's good, solid beer. Mm-hmm. We've been doing it this way for 20 years. Don't really need to go crazy on stuff.
Yeah.
And it shows.
Yeah. I don't know. It's something about like, I love IPAs. I love sours. I love all the innovative stuff, or just the crazy off the wall stuff. Right. But you just can't beat clean and just classic and German. It's German styles. They're so good. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that, I was watching an interview that Chip did a while back and, a while back. And in it, they're talking about like their roots in home brewing and like getting started. And man, in like all of these styles, well, they're not necessarily the sexiest. Like they're not, if you try to launch a craft brewery in Texas with these, with this wheelhouse right now, you might struggle.
Yeah.
Because it's not flashy, but 20 years ago, these were just like, man, this is just good, refreshing, approachable beer.
Mm-hmm.
And so like Live Oak Hefeweizen it's everything that macro or super flashy beer, all of, really hoppy stuff isn't. It ain't bright. I mean, it's got decent clarity on it, but I mean, it's definitely got a little bit of haze.
Mm-hmm.
It's got great ester aroma on it. So, I mean, it's like on the package, it straight up says like, yeah, it's got a, banana clove and some hints of vanilla. And I'm like, yeah, no, that's 100% what you get.
Yep.
The body is really light. It's just like refreshing to a T. Like, the beautiful thing is, and I look at, and the head just boof, like
yep.
Perfecto. And the beautiful thing is, we were talking about this a little bit with Saison DuPont last time. This is a beer that you can dress up or dress down. Like, this can be your lawnmower beer where like, yeah, Saison DuPont is like 6% plus. This guy's like 5% and change. Like, man, this can be your lawnmower beer. This could be your like just evening beer with dinner. Take it to a barbecue.
Yep.
You can have this at a wedding. Like, it just, and that's kind of what good beer should be able to do.
It's like the style, and to me, when it comes to the style of Hefeweizen, everybody's like, what's a, like when I talk to newer into beer people and the word Hefeweizen comes up, like, what is that? And I was like, well, it's a wheat beer and it's yeast driven and bananas and cloves and things like that. But I could talk to you all day about it. I could tell you exactly what the textbook thing is, but grab a Live Oak Hefeweizen, because not everybody loves Hefeweizen. I have met too many people that do not like it. And it's like, so I know now that there are categories. There are people that love it, and there are people that it is not their thing at all. It is my thing. I love Hefeweizen. But I'm like, if you want to know what a Hefeweizen should be, Live Oak.
Yeah.
And then start there.
Yeah, just absolutely. And it's a like, and again, that was when I was in college and like kind of really discovering craft beer. You know, you kind of had this issue of like, oh yeah, you want to go, you know, discover styles. Like you're reading books about styles, like going through like Michael Jackson, you know, tomes of like, look at all the different beers of the world.
Yeah.
And you get to Hefeweizen and it's like, oh shoot, like, can I drink this? Can I, you know, where can I find this style? And it's just like, oh yeah, brewery down the street makes one. And you do a little research. And it's like, actually, it's really good. Like not just that it tastes good, but it's representative of the style. And having traveled in Germany and consumed way too many Hefeweizens, holy cow, like I can tell you, Live Oak Hefeweizen is the real deal.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, I wonder sometimes about like styles that are, you know, we've kind of, I oftentimes think of beer styles in regards to like dog breeds. Like there's the BJCP, like here's what we judge. You know, some bunch of people in their ivory towers sit down and say a perfect Hefeweizen tastes like this, and a perfect, you know, Rauch beer should taste like this, and a perfect IPA should be just so. And kind of like with dog breeds, someone sits down and says, "This is what a German Shepherd should look like." And there was a period of time in beer where everyone was striving to fit those categories. And I don't know when it was, if it was, I realize I'm kind of getting old man yells at cloud like level here, but I think it was like, you know, sometime in the last like 5-10 years, I think that the collective beer zeitgeist got away from what should a style be, and just focusing instead on like, hey, what's exciting, what tastes good, whatever. And Live Oak Hefeweizen is sort of a relic, and I mean that in the best way possible, but it's sort of a relic of a time when being true to style was a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Now I don't have the technical expertise that you have, and I want you to, as you put your nose in both proper glassware tonight. We both have our Hefeweizen glasses.
I felt it was worth getting it out for.
Yes, I have a whole set of these because I'm a long table away in my backyard from having my own German beer garden. And being in Germany or being German. Yeah. But other than that, I've got the glasses and I've got the beer and a backyard. Now, if I'll just wait until it's not 1,000 degrees anymore.
Yeah, get the weather too, and then you're in business.
This is the perfect. This is like the May in Houston of beers. Like the heat hadn't hit all the way yet, but the sunshine is just there. Like it's sunshine. It's like hazy sunshine, like with our smog and our humidity. The way the sky looks at a sunset is in May. It's because you can't go out there now because you'll burst into flames. But
no, it was awful.
Hefeweizen like in May, April, May, and you know, I want you to get into the technical side of it. But I can tell you that going out to Live Oak, their new location, so their old location was really interesting. It was, you know, they had to like crawl through rafters to add hops, and it was very tight quarters. It was not one of those places that you really, you know, put on your list of, you wanted to try the beers, you wanted to be in Austin, especially early aughts, and that before Austin's lost a little bit of its coolness. It's become a little too shiny and techy.
Yeah, it's like shiny cool instead of grungy cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. I am not an expert in cool.
No.
Well,
and now that we can't go anywhere, maybe it'll get whatever. But anyway, going out to Live Oak, the brewery now, out by the airport. If you're seeing this on our video or listening to the podcast and you're flying into Austin for whatever reason, South by Southwest, years from now when that thing is a thing again, or if you're a entrepreneur trying to start your tech company or I don't know, vitamin company or whatever it is you're trying to do in Austin, because you can't live on the coast anymore because it's just gotten too nutty. And so now you've come to your senses and moved to the great state of Texas, but Austin is your place because everybody else does it. So why not you? When you fly into Austin and by the airport there, you drive through a neighborhood where you're like, I'm not sure. But then once you get to the brewery, it is a beautiful facility. And lo and behold, Chip and the whole team in their wisdom got a place with lots of live oaks. It's like, and there's multiple layers. It's very odd. Just the landscape is Austin. There's big trees. You can't beat big live oak trees with the way they just kind of reach out and say like, I have a beer under me and I'm going to hug you with my shade. And the long tables, and then the tap room inside, there's these big long tables. You'll make friends. They give you a big tall glass of Hefeweizen. Sometimes they have the smoked version of their Hefeweizen. Chip's a big fan of smoked beers.
Yeah.
That's some good stuff. Most of the time there's going to be some good food out there and stuff.
Yeah, and I'll admit I have not had any of the Rauch beers that Live Oak's made. But if there's anybody in Texas that makes a good Rauch beer, I'm sure it's Live Oak.
Yeah. Are you a fan of smoke? Because like I said, some people are fans of Hefeweizen. Some people it's not.
Yeah. So I am. I'm about to put on my snooty, I wish I had a monocle because I would put it on just right now. I'd be like, I've had the pleasure of having Rauch beers in Bamberg, where the style originates and where it's just like, oh yeah, this is just this is the local beer, and they're phenomenal. I had a smoked Märzen once there, and in my inebriated wisdom, sat down, opened up a little journal, and I started just taking notes on it, just okay, what's this taste like? What's it? And I'm, full disclosure, drunk, and and I had a couple of notes in there that were ultimately I just kind of circled it. It was it's like iced tea. The level of smoke just added a little bit of astringency and balanced some of the sweetness and added a bit of depth, much in the way that just good, strong iced tea can. And I found myself going holy cow, this is something that needs to be in Texas. And so I have also had a lot of garbage Rauch beers in Texas, where, people are taking the heavy-handed craft beer approach of just well, it says it's a smoke beer, it's got to taste like smoke or otherwise people are going to be disappointed, so here's the liquid smoke, dog. And those have all been really sad, but someday I'd love to try Live Oak's smoke beers.
Yeah, they have their Rauch Fest, and talking to Chip, I keep name dropping, but he's been on the podcast. He's been on Liquid Lunch. He's been on InterBrews.
Yeah.
He came out to the Renaissance Festival last year, and it got rowdy, but he's one of the nicest guys, and you can tell he just loves his beers. That's the thing. When you start talking to him about smoked beers, you see the joy, and that's the approach you need for smoke, because you need somebody that loves them and know, you said, they don't just need liquid smoke. I think you have to be in a place of love to really develop a good, to know, where's the line, where does it really complement what we've already got going on in this Hefeweizen, just to make it a little bit more, I don't know. Anyway, it's just, the love is there.
Yeah. And you can tell, if you have any interactions with Chip, because again, guy's been around for 20 plus years here, and he has got he's obviously passionate and in love with the beers and the brand that he's built. And any interactions you have with him, you can tell that he is just man, he is proper Texan. He's just got the attitude to him and everything. Real the hospitality's there and real cheery, but just like, man, you get the feeling that like if you say the wrong thing, you're gonna piss them off, or you're gonna have a nice, strong conversation.
Yeah. Well, he's also a UT alum, so
yeah,
I guess.
I am also a UT alum, but it's also one of those just like I don't know, man. I grew out of like yeah, go local college, just like. I graduated and it was just like cool. Once they started asking me for money, I was just like, you don't matter to me anymore. Like this transaction is done. I gave you money. You gave me paper. Like we're done.
Yeah. We had our thing. Let's just move on and, let's not make it embarrassing.
But I was going to say, let me bring it back to the beer. It's like, but there's a lot of things. I think I started talking at some point about the, like, they just do their thing and they do it well, and they haven't like gone crazy trying to reach out and do all these other things. And from a technical standpoint, there's a lot to be said, between the difference of an excellent Hefeweizen and a good Hefeweizen. And that's kind of like, therein lies the rub for much of the beer world. Just, you can make a good IPA. It's not too hard to do. Mm-hmm. Making a great IPA is damn near impossible. Mm. And Hefeweizens are so fun in that, like, if you think of beers as, kind of like you got a couple sliders, right? Where you're just going, okay, we got malt flavor, that's one slider. You've got hop character, that's another slider, and then you got yeast character, that's your other slider, and then you got a bunch of little tiny ones, for water chemistry, blah 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 blah. Snooze alert. So, Hefeweizen is like all about that yeast slider. So much of the character, like I reckon, I'm going to do arbitrary percentages, 90% of the flavor and aroma from this beer is all in the yeast. Mm. And yeast handling and the way that you ferment this beer, Hefeweizen in particular, plays a dramatic role in how the final beer comes out. And so if you go to Live Oak now, granted, I haven't been to the new space, I've just seen pictures and kind of cyber stalked them. They do a lot of horizontal fermenters and open fermentations, which you don't find typically in the craft beer scene because, frankly, horizontal fermenters are not as flexible as like the standard cylindrical conical, the really tall tanks that you see when you go to visit a brewery. They're not as flexible in the styles they can produce. They're harder to clean. They take up more space. There's just a whole bunch of cons against them. But the one thing that they really just kill at is making beers with a high ester, high yeast profile character. And just dropping, I guess, while we're on this, like, I'm about to start nerding out on all this stuff. So this is actually one of my favorite like case studies. When I went to brewing school, one of the favorite case studies that we did was a German brewery that they expanded. They built a new facility. They built all these cylindrical conicals because, hey, they're doing a bunch of lagers. Cylindrical conical tanks, the big tall guys, those are great for making lagers. Just highly efficient, do all sorts of great stuff with them. And so they decided to invest in that for all of their equipment. And just pop it, dude. Okay.
Normally I stick to about a 2 beer show. I knew with Hefeweizen it'd be at least 3. So
yeah, I know. I had to. Anyway, I was about to get distracted, but I'm not going to.
Yeah.
So anyway, they built this brand new brewery. Big cylindrical conical tanks, and they were just switching over. All of our beers are going to go into these tanks, and they started doing their first couple batches. They did their lagers, they were doing just fine, and then they did their Hefeweizen. and it was wrong. Like the flavor profile, like the ester profile in particular, so the big like banana fruit notes that you get off of the beer was just wrong. And they started doing a bunch of research, doing all sorts of analyses, double checking all their paperwork, blah blah blah, and they finally ended up getting a consultant in to try and figure out what was going on. And it turned out that by fermenting in like the geometry of the tank, the height of these cylindrical conicals relative to the width and everything like that, the hydrostatic pressure, so the volume of beer pushing down on the beer below it, was enough to suppress ester production in that yeast. So there's all these little variables that impact how yeast behaves in beer. So, you hear things like, it's cold fermented. It's like, well, that's not entirely BS, because the cooler you are, typically the less ester production you get, the warmer, and vice versa. And so one of the big stressors on yeast is pressure. The more pressure you have on there, the more you're going to suppress ester production. And so breweries that have horizontal tanks, there's very little pressure pushing down on the yeast that's in the beer. And the same thing with when you have open fermenters. As the beers are fermenting and they're building up pressure inside the tank, you don't get all that pressure pushing back down on the beer, even if it's just a little bit to get up over into a blow off. Instead, that pressure just goes straight to the atmosphere via an open fermenter. And so, visiting Live Oak and knowing that they do some open fermentation, I haven't seen their production. I haven't been on their production floor and seen like, okay, how much of this is open fermenting and how much of this is what. But the fact that they still commit to doing brewing this beer this way, even though, on paper, it costs more money. It's not as flexible. There's all these limitations and setbacks. But, God dang it, it is the right way to do it. And that's something that, you'd go and try to find a brewery opening up today that says, we're starting off by making continental ales and lagers, and they're probably going to not drop the money for customized, horizontal fermenting tanks.
Yeah. It's,
rant over.
No, that's why I'm so grateful that you're doing these these episodes with me, because one, it would just be me chugging into a microphone.
Yeah,
but all the expertise that you bring. I've brewed a Hefeweizen a few times. I haven't brewed in a while. I'm way past due. But when I was in my in it, Hefeweizen was one that I think I did pretty good. I enjoyed it. But then I tried to do an open fermentation, just like a gallon of, I put it on top of the fridge. A couple weeks later, tasted like sweat socks. And needless to say, I didn't drink any more of that. The open fermentation. So hydrostatic pressure. That sounds super smart. So you say ester fermentation or ester production, from fermentation. Reading, especially when I was back in the day trying to figure out styles, and looking to get like a Cicerone certification or something like that, and really trying to dial in all the technical stuff. Esters versus phenols. What's the proper balance between, say, like clove and banana and vanilla? And I even get like a little bit of like circus peanut, almost bubble gum kind of.
Yeah.
Going.
Balance ultimately comes down to the brewery, just like what they're trying to, what they're aiming for. So there are little things that the brewery can do to really emphasize one character over another. So let's say, if Live Oak wanted to, like, hey, we really want to emphasize the clove qualities of this beer, there are some things that they could do to suppress ester production by the yeast to allow that clove character to shine through. But to get that clove character to shine through, there's additional things that had to be done on the mash level. And granted, so full disclosure, I have never been a professional German Hefeweizen brewer. I've made a handful of wheat beers, but never anything like of this caliber, or this consistently. Like, geez, man, I've made like one or two one-offs for like, hey, this is for the tap room, like, cool. People drink it because it's new and it's gone by the weekend. But in order to get that clove character, you have to have some, it's one of those like facets of brewing that I kind of like, I haven't had to do in a long time, so I've kind of skipped over. But there's everyone knows about the saccharification rests of like, okay, I say everybody, but you got to break down the starches in the grain into sugar so that you can then ferment them out later. Well, in a lot of German breweries, like what they'll do is they'll have a lower temperature rest. It'll be a protein rest, where a different set of enzymes will start working away at some of the longer chain proteins, turning them into shorter proteins, which do a couple of things. One of which it makes it really aids in that head retention or that head production, that get these really great heads. Oh, we got my head's kind of gone, I'm going to give that to the glass and not the beer. So you get that improvement to head retention and head formation. You also get some precursors to that clove character. So you're always going to get a little bit of that produced just in a normal mash, what have you. But in order to really produce enough of the precursor, you really are going to want to do a lower temperature mash to start, and then you'll heat it up, do your starch conversion rest, and then you'll go about your day. Well, again, in order to have that kind of temperature control of your mash, you got to have a heated mash tun on an industrial scale. And like so many things, like horizontal fermenters, that usually starts sounding an awful lot like money coming from somebody's bank account. Because heated mash tuns are just like, do you need this? No. Does it make better beer? Yes. But do you need it? And when you're already scrambling for investors, you're just like, nah, I don't need it. Because again, you can make really good beer, but that line between good beer and great beer is hard.
Yeah. I'll say this, there might be a strategy, and I'll speak to you about this off recording.
Ooh.
But there may be a strategy for the craft beer industry where instead of going after, I don't know, like beer lovers and then hoping they have money for investment, we should go after really rich people and just turn them on to beer. Because then you can get those heated mash tuns. And I've seen it play out. Anyway, that's a behind the curtain kind of. But I don't know. You're right. It's like all that it does. It's like, all of it. It's like a little bit better equipment here, a little bit better. It takes somebody who has all the skill in the world, good ingredients, but then it's just like that extra little bit at the top that just puts it right over. It's like nobody else has this. I was like, bam. And then you can taste it and it's worth it.
Absolutely. And like, I mentioned I've mentioned a couple times, like, oh, they're 20 plus years old, like just the incredulity of it all. They opened in 97 and they moved into their new facility in 2015. Their old facility was literally The ceilings were, I think, 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
You literally could not, like, there was a door on the mash tun that in order to open it fully, you had to take the door off, because if you opened it, it hit the ceiling. And if you walked through the space, it was just this like sprawling, and very clearly the like, hey, in 97, someone decided to open a brewery. This was the space they could find. It was a good location at the time, or, you know, for whatever reasons, it was good. And then they were like, well, shit, now we can't move out of it. Okay, we'll add another tank there. Oh God, where are we going to put this new tank? I don't know. Put it there. And so there was it became very clear that they were in this I don't want to say position, but they were like, we're going to do things right, in that we're going to buy the tanks that we're supposed to have. We're going to, you know, not skimp on any of these things. And I guarantee it kind of got into the position that every craft brewery finds themselves in, which is they're sort of chasing their tail going, man, the next thing we need is a canning line. Well, we don't have space for a canning line. Okay, well, where are we going to do this? Well, we don't have the infrastructure for that. Okay, well, we need to then get a new space. We don't have the money for a new space. And you get that catch-22 of we know what we need to do, but we don't have the money, or we don't have the time, or we don't have the space, or we don't have the, and I don't know how they financed their new space, if it was all private, if it was, you know, a series of investors or bank loans, whatever. But I can tell you, it took years for the whole thing to come together. I can guarantee you that. And God willing, Live Oak Brewing isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
They've established themselves as such an excellent brewery, and perhaps most importantly, as such an excellent Hefeweizen producing brewery, that if that's the only beer they made, I would still tip my hat to them just every time I drink their beer. And like, we've dubbed this segment required drinking, and I think that is like right there. That's the big like stamp of, that is why Live Oak Hefeweizen specifically is required drinking.
Yeah. If you hadn't had Live Oak Hefeweizen, you don't know Hefeweizen.
Yeah. That's a bold claim.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you like Hefeweizen? Hold on. Have you had Live Oak Hefeweizen? No? Don't answer that question. You don't know. You don't know. You've got to try this one before you can tell me whether you like the style or not, because it starts here. There's variations. There's people that try different approaches. There's been like, the dry hopped and the different, the American approaches to everything, right? It's a beautiful thing about American brewers. There's no sacred cows or sacred styles or anything. They'll take it apart, put it back together, do all kinds of stuff, right? And it's fun. Love it. But start here. Live Oak, right? Got the sign on my wall for a reason, because
I mean, like, we started this up and I'm just like, oh boy, how apropos.
Check that graphic. Not a graphic. That's 10, bro. That was bought at the brewery.
Yeah. And like the you and kind of going back to like the dog breed metaphor that I love to play with, or to throw out there.
Belly. Rub that belly. Get it.
It's that there's nothing, whoever's listening to this, your local brewery, Water and Hole, you might have your favorite Hefeweizen, and that's fine. You know what? Everybody's got a favorite dog. Everybody's got a dog that they prefer, and you know what? It might not be like a 10 out of 10 Labrador Retriever. Like, I don't even know what dog breeds are. Golden Retriever. It's not the best. It's not to the letter, but man, it's a really good dog. And that is perfectly fine.
Yep.
As long as you understand that there's a dog that is what it's supposed to be. And in the live oak or in the Hefeweizen category of dog breeds, I'm just mixing this analogy up. So, but when it comes down to that beer style, live oak Hefeweizen is the top of the list.
Yeah. Agreed. Could not agree more. When they started canning this beer, I believe this was the first beer that they canned. I think it followed closely by with Pils.
Yeah, I think by Pils and then Big Bark, they're amber.
Yeah, yes. One, you notice when this beer is on tap. I remember back in the day going to Austin for different things and seeing those actually live oak tap handles. I'm like, oh, what is that? I should try that. That Big Bark or whatever it was you'd find out. And, so it's like, I don't know. It's just so iconic. The brewery, Chip, the whole thing, this beer, when they started canning this beer, talk about like a step forward for society at large. Like people, you need to understand where we are today compared to where we were just a few short years ago. Things are getting better. And this is one strong piece of evidence. We may have moments where we're like, shit, what's going on? What are we doing? Hold on. Live Oak Hefeweizen's canning. Oh, they are? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right. Yeah. I guess we'll get through this other thing, but we got Live Oak Hefeweizen.
We're still, we might be doing like one step back every now and then, but we're doing 2-step, 3-step forwards every now and then.
And you can always find this beer at your HEB.
Yeah, no, this is an absolute shelfie in the definition of it, and that it's always there, or at least it always at my HEB. I mean, your HEB may vary, but and that's kind of it to a degree. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, but in doing these talks and doing these discussions for required drinking, I kind of think that they almost all need to be shelfies. Like if it's something that you have to go hunting for, then I don't know. We can revisit that because I'm sure there's some beers that are like, oh yeah, you got to go looking for,
so that's one of those things, like it's a philosophical question. So things like logic, are they, something like 2 + 2 = 4, right? 2 + 2, I was talking about this with my daughter because as a 13-year-old, she loves to hear her dad talk about logic and philosophy. 2 + 2 = 4. Even if the entire physical universe was wiped away and there were no physical beings to, observe what was going on, the principle of 2 + 2 = 4 would never go away. It would still be 2 + 2 = 4. There's never a time where 2 + 2 = 5. Regardless, that's a pillar of just existence. Now, if you were to get in a time machine and go back to 2010 before Live Oak Hefeweizen was canned, it would still be a required drink. It's still required drinking. You would still have to go to a bar and get it. But we're now in the reality where it's canned and it's there and it's available. You have no excuse. That's what I'm trying to get to, Keenan.
And you know what? That is an excellent point of, it's literally, I think the high in Houston today was 100 plus. That's not even heat index.
Mm-mm.
Like if today's a beautiful day or was a beautiful day for a Hefeweizen, and frankly, we still got another 2 to 7 months of summer. You got no excuse. Just the next time you do your no contact pickup from HEB or Specs or wherever, throw a 6-pack of Live Oak on there and just destroy it one night.
Mm-hmm. And it's one of those where if you wanted to have it with a salad, like a spinach salad with a little a lime vinaigrette, or not, maybe, I don't know, honey lime, maybe some toasted pecans or walnuts or something.
Oh yeah. My favorite, this is actually my favorite, this is probably my second favorite cheese pairing with beer. Is Hefeweizen with fresh mozzarella.
Yes.
Like you get that, like just that creamy milkiness, soft, and then, contrast that with the really the fresh, like ester, the banana notes, the mouthfeel, the carbonation kind of cuts through everything. The mozzarella, the Hefeweizen are both light enough that it's just kind of like, it's just a snack, man. It's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that's a pillar of existence as well. Fresh mozzarella, live oak Hefeweizen, those perfect beer and cheese pairings. Like, it's just, it's like you can't even, like, there's words don't even justify, like there's the words that actually live up to the actual, it's like,
Yeah, it's just, it's a Zen moment of just where everything's right in the world.
Yeah.
And I should have sat down and thought of more like Hefeweizen and food pairings, because I think we did this last time. We're like, oh, let's talk about eating out and going out to eat and all the other, like.
Yeah, I have the beer and cheese book around here. Janet, what is Janet something or other? I don't know where to go. Anyway, that's a good one to grab. Just Amazon, beer and cheese. And then also Stan Hieronymus is what is it, the brewing with yeast, or they're brewing with wheat.
Oh,
wheat.
Yeah,
brewing with wheat. Stan Hieronymus, best beer writer, because he writes like he's a writer and then he loves beer. So it's like, even like For the Love of Hops reads like a story.
Yeah,
you get that damn water book and it's like
snooze.
Yeah.
Anyway. Water does not get enough love, but it's kind of hard because it's as I know it's going to sound at the risk of a bad joke, it's just so dry.
Yep. I'm glad you said that, because I've made that joke so many times. People are like, don't do it, Josh, don't do it. Or just do it and get it out of the way. And then you did it and it's fine. It's good, because now it's coming from you. So anyway, I don't remember how long our outro music is. I was going to I should have put the time on there. But anyway, do we have any last words before we wrap this episode? Like we said, a succinct 30 minutes.
Yeah. I think if I could, or if I had to wrap it up, or if I had to try and punctuate it, it's Live Oak Hefeweizen makes an excellent Hefeweizen, a superb top of the line Hefeweizen, and I'll do fighting words. I will fight you if you think there's a better one in Texas. And it's a style that is, I think, underrepresented and underappreciated. And I think that it's one that is underdiscovered, that people that are out there drinking beer, new to craft beer, or even, you got into craft beer and you went straight to IPAs or straight to big adjunct stouts, or, you know your amber that you like. It's really easy to kind of forget about these yeast forward beers that are just, they bring something to the party that if you didn't know that you were missing it, you wouldn't know what you were missing.
Yeah. Magic moment. All right. I'm going to hit this music. I forget how long it is. We'll see how long it is here. See if I can do it. I've been doing enough outros. Hopefully I can make things work here. If I hit it twice. Anyway, 23 seconds. Remember that one. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, as the back in the day music hits, thank you guys for listening to this episode of Required Drinking. Keenan and I will be in discussion of what's next. So we'll see you next time. For Keenan, I'm Josh. InterBrews.
Night.
Yeah. We'll have to work on that outro.
Proceeding has been a presentation of Stewed Productions.
I think I'm going to redo that outro. That's not long enough.
Yeah.
I may just tag that on later.
Yeah, we'll figure something out.
Yeah. I'm going to resume because this conversation doesn't have to go. I stopped the audio recording, but we went to Fredericksburg over for the 4th of July.
Oh yeah. How was that?
Fredericksburg is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Went to Allstott Brewing and got a a serious tour. Carlos there. So Craig is their head brewer, Craig Rowan, and he's been on InterBrews just from Skype, and they were out doing whatever. But Carlos was in town. And he's like, yeah, I think the guy mostly speaks Spanish. He worked at Fredericksburg Brewing Company, which is the bed and breakfast brew or whatever. And but anyway, he took us through the whole deal. And you want to talk about having that money to put you over the top. So I don't know if you know the story for Allstott.
I don't know the whole story. I know it from afar in the sense that like I saw it getting built up and just going, who the fuck are these people?
Yeah.
What is this? Who decided that I'm just going to drop millions of dollars on building just like an import looking brewery in the middle of Fredericksburg?
Yeah. It's okay. So the inside of that, so the tap room and everything is beautiful.
I know everything I've seen is just gorgeous.
The brew house is as automated and as technical and as high tech and technology driven. Like ABI would be like, oh, you've got that? We couldn't even we couldn't justify that with our expenses. You did that?
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures just during their build up. That was when I was at 11 Below. That was like usually once a month or twice a month. That was kind of a like, oh hey, we see this new brewery is opening up, or we see this like a little bit of news, and we're like, who are those guys? Oh shit! Yeah. Or sometimes it's like, oh my god, look at this trash. And Altstadt was one of those like, I remember looking at it and going. Just from what I could see, I was like, these guys they arguably have more dollars than cents. Because the reason I say that is because they had a whole tremendous amount of automation, but I recall their size was like the actual brew house size was fairly small.
Yes. That's Carlos was saying that he showed us, the entire, there's my dog going crazy I think my girls are walking back home. We have neighbors right around the corner where they get to hang out. So that's cool. But anyway, so my wife's with them. I don't just send my girls out in the dark. Anyway, yes, that's Carlos was like, they built an amazing brewery, but they didn't have expansion in mind at all. He goes, I don't know whoever designed this, I don't know what he was thinking, but they're having to expand now. They do open fermentation for their Hefeweizen. Their Hefeweizen, I don't know if you've tried that one.
I haven't, no.
I need to do it side by side with Live Oak. It's really good too. That lager, shit, man. I'm embarrassed to say how much I enjoy that lager. Just the blue label lager.
I've only had one beer from them, and it was like a freebie at a Brewers Guild event, and I don't know what brand it was. Yeah. Like it was unlabeled, and it was just like, yeah, this is from Altstadt. I was like, okay. And I drank it and I was like, I don't know what style this is supposed to be, but it's decent. And and so it's just like, I can't judge this. I don't know what the fuck I'm drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. It just says lager, but it's a Helles, right? And it's just super duper drinkable. And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe they have some voodoo priest that comes in, just on retainer. It's the Scripps family. They used to own like the Cooking Network and the Food Channel and all of those, and they sold them.
I was going to say, that sounded really familiar.
Yeah, they owned all of that. And so they have even at the top, they have like the third floor or fourth floor, whatever it is up there, they have a loft that you could stay at and sleep in and be there. And what'll happen is the owner, one of the Scripps, there's like 4 Scripps brothers or 3 or whatever. And they all had to figure out something to do. The dad was like, you got to figure out something to do. He's like, I'll open a brewery. It was this one.
Yeah.
I don't know which one. And he came in and he built that in Fredericksburg, which land is not cheap in Fredericksburg either, because it's Fredericksburg.
Yeah.
But anyway, Carlos was telling us a story about where they're having a meeting. They were about to spend $1 million on some piece of equipment. And the people running the brewery, like, he was just over there on his phone, the Scripps guy, the owner. Like, we're about to make a decision on $1 million. Like, we're about to spend $1 million. You should probably be paying attention. And he's like, buy it. It's $1 million. Just buy it. You need it? Is it needed? Get it. It's back to whatever he was doing on his phone. I don't know. He's probably making $10 million on his phone.
Yeah.
Like, But anyway,
Cat
it's,
pics.
it's that. And so it's one of those things where if they can keep somebody, so like when COVID hit, their tap room, like the service was like, had taken a bunch of hits for not being like the restaurant and stuff for not being all that great. Cause again, Fredericksburg's small, hard, expensive to live there. So you got to get people in from the other towns around. Like so people drive, it's like hard to get the really good talent in your tap room. So when COVID hit, laid everybody off, but really it's like, no, that's our chance to bring in new chef, all new people. The thing when I look at that place, I'm like, it's amazing. They have delicious beer. That Kolsch, they said they're selling so much Kolsch they can barely keep up.
Oh yeah.
They obviously have the technology and the finances behind it. If they can get somebody in charge of that brewery that's super passionate, like if it just becomes kind of a shoulder shrug, like, oh, the owner doesn't really care, so I don't really, it's like whatever. We're trying to hit numbers. It'll fall off. They'll end up selling it off or doing something down the line. Oh, there. Okay, there. But anyway, but if they can get somebody passionate, they could probably take over the state of Texas numbers wise.
Oh, it could. I remember when they again, like looking at some of the original branding, I'm like, this just looks like it looks like shitty import, like the brand. Like I'm just from the hip, like it just looks like shitty import.
Yeah.
But it's by all accounts, it's really solid beer. Mm-hmm. And so kind of like Live Oak Hefeweizen, one of the things that's got going for them is that it has this, just branding wise, whatever, it's Texas. It screams like, hey, we are a Texas brewery. We've got a great story. We've been around. We've done all this stuff. And Altstadt is like, it comes out sounding like, who is this? Where is this from? Is this from Germany? I don't know. Mm-hmm. And that's I think they will run into a messaging problem as far as like getting people to know who they are and like why they should be drinking Altstadt or whatever. But a lot of that is if you're running by traditional like craft beer rules, which is you're trying to sell your product at a premium, you're trying to really differentiate yourself. But from my understanding is they're selling their stuff for fairly cheap, and they're just kind of, and again, if they don't need the money and they can just turn around and go like, yeah, this turns a profit.
The thing that hit me, they have a 3.5%, what they call lichte beer, light beer. This is Allstott Light in just a white can with with all their font. If you can get the good old boys to say, oh, it's made in Texas, huh? And if they were to do that and then say maybe like a Mexican lager at some point.
There's
because you see everybody brewing Mexican lagers, right? And I don't know. Like I look at that and I'm like, okay, I see how this could blow up, but I could also see where it could go, like the new macro kind of thing.
Yeah, the craft beer, the beer segment of the market right now is just so topsy-turvy. Like admittedly, like I try to look at the silver lining of the current situation that I find myself in. Uh-huh. And one of those silver linings is the beer market's crazy right now in that nobody knows what's going on. Uh-huh. Breweries are going to be shuttering left and right. Like hard seltzers are like, everything's kind of swinging back to not quite like sub premium, or I don't even know what the hell you call it. Like it's not everyone's like swinging back to Coors, but people are swinging to like, I'll pick up some White Claw, or I'll pick up things kind of like what we're doing now, which is like, what, I just need beer. Like I can't go out to my local brewery and pick up the stuff. I can't physically go into HEB or Kroger or wherever to do my beer shopping. What am I going to buy? Like, and there's the big the fans that are physically going into, doing the drive-ins or drive-throughs and like, doing beer to go, those guys are awesome and they're keeping breweries afloat. But that's such a small percentage of actual consumers.
Yeah.
And so things like, Live Oak Hefeweizen, it's like, that's just a solid beer. Like I got a case of Shiner in my fridge right now because, go to Costco, you can get, it's $1 a bottle. I'm just like, all right, cool. Like there's no reservations on that.
What do you think? What do you think the timeline is when things really? I mean, there's been a few breweries that have shuttered here and there, and those were ones that were already kind of teetering anyway. And this just kind of was like their way of saying, "All right, this is the time to step out."
Yeah. But
we're in the second shutdown. We may have like a real legit shutdown, like everything shuts down again. I've seen one story where this may be a 2-year stretch. So that would put us at the quarter mark, almost to the quarter mark.
Yeah. No, I know. Like I try not to, I don't know. To borrow a phrase from a high school teacher, I was like, I'm not a cynic. I'm a realist.
Mm-hmm.
And people are dumb, like just in large groups. People, at least here in Texas, are dumb. This is not going away. This will not be done before March next year. Because I'll paint a picture for you as we're kind of wrapping things up. We probably before July, we're going to have a shutdown here in Houston. Maybe across the state, we'll have some sort of additional like big old push. Who knows what Abbott is willing to sacrifice. But I imagine it'll be hey, we're going to just lock everything down for 2 weeks prior to schools reopening.
Mm-hmm.
Just as hey, that's the exchange. We're going to justify reopening schools by doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Schools are going to reopen. And then everything's going to be really fucking ugly. Like kids are going to die, teachers are going to die, just bad stuff all around. And it's going to probably, what is that? I'm going to pull up my calendar. That's the 19th when schools go back in session. We're probably not going to see the full weight of that until September. We're probably no one's going to make a decision, like a hard decision to say, yeah, no, that was bad, probably till October. We're going to probably see in I'm an epidemiologist in my spare time. So probably October, November, possibly December, we're going to see 50,000 cases a day. And then it's going to start winding down, hopefully.
Just in time for the new swine flu from China.
Oh yeah, just in time for 2021, where it's like, hey, 2021, new flavor.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but when that gets back to breweries, so many breweries in the last 5 years have opened up with taproom models,
mm-hmm.
with all their beers to go, or all their beers on site or to go. They don't have the infrastructure to package their beer in mass and sell their beer en masse. Oftentimes their real estate is not designed, their real estate is expensive because they're built in a high traffic area.
Mm-hmm.
Brewing is a capital intensive industry. Chances are they've got big fucking loans coming due. There's going to be a lot of breweries that, unless they start throwing lactose and marshmallows and breakfast cereal in every single one of their sours, then they're not going to be able to sell enough beer for offsite consumption, to last.
Yeah.
And
confession time.
Yeah.
I ran up to CVS today because I needed a USB-C to USB-A cable for this setup over here. Needed it. While I was at CVS, I grabbed a box of Lucky Charms and fruity Lucky Charms, which is new in a purple box. And I had 2 bowls. I won't buy the beer. I can't justify.
Yeah.
I can't make myself go buy that beer, but I love Lucky Charms, and my fat ass shows it. My gut jiggle.
I stress cook, so I'm surprised my wife and I are not much larger than we are right now.
Yeah, I think the thing. So my work schedule this week goes back to normal. I'll be working 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. Monday through Friday. Luckily, I'm locked away in a small room by myself, and we'll see how long that lasts. Once sports quits again, I'll probably be back to the rotation schedule.
Yeah.
But I'm super excited because that allows me to do all of this. I don't know where I was going with that. Oh, yeah. I'm blessed with whatever my metabolism. I've been taking, tons of vitamins since my lockdown, my scare.
Yeah.
One, I'm starting now, dude. Let me tell you about what I'm taking supplement wise. L-theanine. If you ain't got down on some amino acid L-theanine with your coffee, you don't even know. So theanine, L-theanine. It's in green tea, but I drink 2 cups of coffee. I take that. It's supposed to take the edge off the jittery part and give you super focus when combined with caffeine. And if you take enough of it, I'd take 200 milligram tablets in the morning. I'm thinking I may try 400 tonight to see how it works with my sleep. We'll see what happens. But it's all supposed to be super safe. But that's my latest that I've added. But anyway, all that supplement, vitamin taking stuff. And then I eat early. I lost a pound just going to work for a normal time the other day. I was like, that's it. Once I'm back into work, I'm good.
Yeah. I think I don't know. So admittedly, my life's been a little crazy the last 2 weeks. So we went up to Colorado for 4th of July. That was like a big family vacation that was planned before all this happened, where like my in-laws were driving up there too. My brother and his family live up in Denver. We were going to Colorado Springs. And so it was like, you know what? We'll spend a day hanging out with my brother at like Garden of the Gods. It's awesome. We'll do a whole bunch of just like hiking around. We don't even physically have to interact with other people. We can just go hiking, explore nature, blah, 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 blah. So we got up there, like we drove and we got up there super late Wednesday. We had our full day Thursday, our full day Friday. And we were supposed to be there Saturday and Sunday and then leave first thing in the morning Monday to get back. And Saturday morning, my wife's grandma passes away. Like these in-laws, like it's my mother-in-law's mom passes away. And she's admittedly, it's like, it's kind of been a long time coming. Like she was in a memory ward, memory unit, memory care, whatever you want to call it. And so we were all, waiting for it to happen, but she wasn't in poor health necessarily. And so, but anyway, it was just okay, well, it's Saturday, time to just pack up everything in the car and just it's like, oh God, we've just been here. But so we just drove to Dallas where my in-laws live to work on some of the arrangements. My wife's going up to, I'm trying to remember, I don't even know what week this is. My wife's going up to they're doing a viewing tomorrow. So she's actually driving up there tomorrow. But so just like everything has just been crazy on our end as far as like driving around. Everything's over the top. But like, as an example, you know, old grandma passed away on Saturday morning, and the first available viewing that they could do for her was Tuesday the 14th. So it's 10 days later. That's the earliest that they could do a viewing. So consequently, or in the same vein, her husband passed away. The grandpa passed away, I guess about 3 years ago. And his viewing service was 3 days later. And I don't know, like there's kind of gets back into the, like, I think things are going to get a whole lot worse before they get better. For both, looking at breweries, bars, like there's going to be a big, like someone's going to eventually, some of this shit's going to probably get to Supreme Court at some point, where a bar is going to stand up and just say, you can't do this. You know, I have customers that are willing to come in here and spend money, sit here and drink a beer, and you're going to say that I can't do it, not for, you know, a month, but for just question mark amount of time. I am going to lose my business, my livelihood. I'm going to lose everything. And it's like, there's going to be, especially just here in America, where we don't have, a lot of our laws don't seem to, they're sort of default to personal rights over common good kind of stuff, which, I mean, just our culture. Like, I don't know, man, like there's a lot of bad stuff coming our way. And I try not to be super doom and gloom, but I also, because you got 3 kids. Are your kids going to school?
You asked me 5 hours ago and I would have been like, I'm not worried about it. The kids are fine. But then, it changes, because I hear one thing and I'm like, yeah, that seems reasonable. And I hear another thing, oh yeah, that's scary. Oh, yeah. No, that seems reasonable. Oh, fuck no. It's like, we have the option of homeschool versus going. And so I don't know. It's like, I don't know, depending on what our options are. My wife is working on getting her real estate license. She can do some private lessons with her gymnastics bus, which is, cool. She had one this past weekend and they're like, we were around Aunt so-and-so and they tested positive, so we got to postpone. It's like, all right. So it's just, that's just life right now. Yeah. I don't know. I look at the numbers and I try to make sense of the numbers, and I know the numbers aren't accurate in any way, shape, or form, as far as there's false positives, there's false negatives. There's, they opened up the hospitals for people to come in and get, previously scheduled surgeries. And so everybody got tested. And so asymptomatic people were counted as positive tests and hospitalization. So that's, overblown. But then at the same point, there's more people going to the hospital, right? So it's like the numbers are up a lot. So that's not just like, it's not just this, it's all that. I hate the politicalization of the whole thing. Yeah. It's like, of course, when people get together for anything, it's going to cause a virus to spread, because a virus does not give a fuck about what your politics are.
Yeah.
It does not care. It's when you get around other people, if you're yelling for Trump, or you're yelling for Black Lives Matter, or you're yelling for aliens, or you're yelling for whatever, it doesn't matter, because a virus is a virus. And so why can't we just state that? Why can't we just say we're all being dumb, right? It was all dumb and we weren't honest with each other. Let's just all be honest and quit being political. It's so stupid. I don't, it's like, and so do the kids get sick? It doesn't, the odds are very, very low, which is a blessing. But at the same time, I don't want to get arrogant and be like, meh, they're fine.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they haven't got, our kids have been hanging around some other kids, but it's all been pretty controlled as far as who it is, and then if
Yeah.
some, you know,
Yeah. And that's, I've been, so this is the first year that my oldest would be starting kindergarten this year.
mhm.
And I mean, it's kindergarten, man. Like kids are just they're still chewing on, like my girl, she chews her fingernails, chews on her hair, she puts everything in her mouth.
Mhm.
And like, and the beatings don't help, so I don't know like how to fix that. And so it just have this like, it's impossible to do it, at least just thinking about kindergarten. Like when you think about kindergarten, you think about kids at stations all sitting around together,
Mhm.
sharing lunches, like
Oh,
literally just all sitting at the same table.
yeah.
Like,
If a kindergartner can spread it, then it's going to get spread. That's
yeah,
all. That's all there is to it. There's no social distancing with kindergartners.
yeah,
There's some lady on Facebook or somewhere did that video, and it's like, yep, that's she mimicked all the. She's a kindergarten teacher or whatever. She's like, this year in kindergarten, she's like shooting the mask and like my mask fell in the toilet and all this kind of stuff, like cut after cut, and it's like, yeah, that's just it. They just, mine are all middle schoolers now because I'm old, and now it's like, well, now yeah, they're all.
yeah.
I
You
wish I
you
just
could,
had to worry about them vaping and pulling, stealing beers, but now I got to
oh
worry
yeah,
about an invisible virus.
yeah. Well, I mean and I guess that's the, like, I don't know. Like I find myself being very, or I've kind of got a very doom and gloom uh, perspective of it, because I've been spending the past week or so trying to like really analyze with all the data that I got, because like starting tomorrow is the registration window for the online. We're in Klein ISD, so it's like that registration for, if you want to be online, you have to make that decision by the 24th.
That's early. That,
Yeah,
geez.
like you have to let them know that you want to
How,
be online by the 24th.
how can you do that? I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
what Sci-Fair is doing, but man, I don't know
which
when
I mean,
we,
like, and so granted, it's also the like, so they will otherwise, you'll auto default to on campus, but then I think you can also just say, oh no, I'm going to be online at any time, in which case, it's like, okay, it doesn't really matter.
is Klein giving out Chromebooks or anything like that? Sci-Fair is giving out a Chromebook to every kid.
I think they have said something like they are working to make it available to everybody that
Mhm.
wants one. But like, it's also, man, my kindergartner, she doesn't know how to use a computer.
Right, right.
Like, admittedly, like I actually, I recently built a new computer, um,
For
and
gaming?
well, primarily for gaming, because that's the only thing I need any like significant graphics or anything for. Um, but also just point of order. Like my old computer is 8 years old.
I've got you beat.
Yeah.
My
Well,
MacBook Pro is 10 years old.
yeah. It was a PC that I built like 8 years. Basically, it was in the time that it was sort of my own like engagement present to myself, where it was like, hey, we just got engaged, and I spent a lot of money on your ring. Can I spend a fraction of that on a computer so that I can play video games?
Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, of course, that totally makes sense. And it's like, cool, I have a budget. I'm gonna like stick with that. And here I am, like 8 years later, and I'm like, it's not bad. It's still serviceable, but goddamn, like 8 years, I'm gonna just part out a new one. And so anyway, um, long story short, I have all the components. I ended up like Frankensteining an old computer that my father-in-law had, that like some components had gone bust or whatever. And so I've got my old computer now upgraded, that's going to become her workstation somewhere in the house for when she's doing kindergarten. But just I have no idea what it looks like. I have no idea what, what this is going to be. And in the meantime, I am still the primary caregiver to a 4-year-old and a just shy of 2-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all that. All that is just bananas. Like, I can't wait till the time we can get out, look back on this. all I want to do is look back on this.
Yeah, I know. And that's where like, I mean, my, guys, like, it's fucking depressing at times, where my in-laws, they feel really bad about like essentially ruining this 4th of July trip because admittedly, this was like supposed to be like